You can also talk about individual cities. It's even more clear in that case because we give them proper names. Venice, Florence, Rome, Paris, Vienna, London, New York, Geneva, and so on. All are individual cities with their own date of birth and, potentially at least, their own date of death. So they are historical individuals, and they are singular and unique in that you cannot reproduce Venice anywhere else. You can build a Las Vegas Venice, but everybody knows that that is not Venice. That is a simulacrum of Venice. Now, it might work for Vegas, but that's not going to fool anyone into thinking that that is Venice, the singular individual with a singular history as we know it from the 9th century on. It was born roughly in the 9th century when several villages that occupied different islands in that lagoon sort of came together. By the 13th century, Venice was already the center of a world economy that encompassed all of Europe and some outlying areas. So Venice was born, then came on its own, and then after Napoleon went into decline. Today Venice is a kind of Disneyland for tourists, but nevertheless it's still Venice. That medieval core of Venice, doesn't matter how touristic it may seem, those rocks, those buildings, they have a history. They've been there. They are part of a unique individual that we call Venice. The same thing for any other city. Some cities have more personality than others. Some are more singular than others. Some are more unique than others. But in ontological, philosophical terms, every city, it doesn't matter how homogenized and how nondescript its buildings are and how boring its history is, it's a unique individual because it has its unique history that identifies it. So from population thinking, we're going to take that idea. Just like the human species is not a general category, but a historical individual only larger than individual organisms, than the individual persons that make up the species, so are all the social entities that I will consider, as far as this class is concerned, the next 6 hours, as valid entities that can enter into an explanation. And just like we would not consider humanity, or to use even the more sexist and even more reified term, man, right? Because it talks like, well, the destiny of man is, man does not exist. Okay? It's a reified generality. It's thinking in Aristotelian terms, thinking that a species is something else, a general category, when in fact a species is a whole that's made out of parts. A whole that is made out of parts. The parts are, for instance, for the species tiger or the species zebra, the component parts are every single zebras that make up a species at a particular time. And then the whole is a species that is also a singular individual, only larger in space and time. Larger in space because it's made out of several reproductive communities, each one inhabiting different ecosystems, and larger in time because the species outlasts the lives of its individuals. Individual organisms come and go, and the species lasts for many generations of those individual organisms. So, the first rule that we're going to introduce here, and again, I'm not trying to impose it on you, I'm proposing it as a rule, and I'm proposing it with the purpose of trying to get our historical explanations more correct. Let's avoid, that would be the rule, reified generalities. Let's avoid using explanations, using words like the market in general, or words like the state in general, or words like society in general. Now, this will, of course, immediately distinguish us, if we adopt this rule, from the people in Congress and Senate in the United States today. When you read the discussions as to what's going on right now, the Democrats in the United States say, well, the problem is that the market grew too large and what we need is much more control by the state. And that's their explanation of what needs to be done. The Republicans, on the other hand, counter, no, it's the opposite. We need we need the market to be more powerful and the state to be smaller. And so because those are not real explanations, they are not picking the relevant entities, they are in fact picking irrelevant, non-existing, reified generalities, I don't even know where those discussions are leading to. I mean, that is one of the reasons perhaps politicians get so little things done. Precisely because they do not have the right ontology. Ontology is that branch of philosophy which concerns itself with the types of being that a philosophy considers real. So, for instance, if you're a phenomenologist, like Husserl or Heidegger or Merleau-Ponty, your ontology consists mostly of phenomena, that is, of things as they appear to human consciousness. That's what phenomena means. And everything else, everything goes beyond human consciousness, beyond human awareness, is called noumena, and that is excluded from the ontology of phenomenology. Phenomenologists say noumena are unknowable, so maybe they exist, maybe they don't exist, but we don't talk about it. All we talk about is appearances, things as they appear to the human mind, phenomena. That's an ontology. Yesterday I introduced Deleuze as a materialist philosopher, and a materialist philosophy has a different ontology. In a materialism, your ontology includes many entities that exist independently of our minds. Rainforests, climate systems, solar systems, galaxies, nebulas, and in the other direction, microorganisms that produce infectious diseases, and molecules like DNA that allow those organisms to reproduce, atoms out of which those molecules are made. All those other things, which are not part of the ontology of phenomenologists, are part of the ontology of materialists. At the same time, materialists need to exclude a variety of entities. For a real materialist, for instance, heaven and hell, which are very real for a lot of people, are non-existent entities. Heaven and hell, as transcendental spaces, do not exist as part of the ontology of a materialist. At least I don't know any materialist who actually believes that. Angels, cherubs, demons, different types of devils, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Satan, as much as I would like them to exist, they don't exist. At least they are not part of my ontology. Now, ontology is an important part of philosophy because your ontological commitments, what you commit as a philosopher, you commit yourself to assert this actually exists, and I'm going to defend the thesis that this actually exists. Once you make those ontological commitments, a lot of the rest of your philosophy follows. You still have to develop, for instance, your epistemology, your theory of how we get to know things about these entities. But once you postulate a world of entities, you're also in a way circumscribing where your epistemology is going to be. Because, for instance, in the case of a materialist, we need to explain not only how we acquire knowledge about directly visible things like cats and dogs, mountains and clouds, about phenomena, but also about atoms and molecules, also about solar systems and galaxies, which are not part of our everyday existence. So your ontological commitments are the most basic part of your philosophy. It is very, very important to be clear about what you are ontologically committed to. What I'm saying by saying this part, what I'm saying here in this part of the board, is that these entities are not valid entities in a Deleuzian ontology. Now, I'm going to explain later on that I'm breaking a little bit with Deleuze here, because Deleuze, in fact, does include those entities as part of his ontology. He doesn't quite do the break I would have wanted him to do. So what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm going to, at every point where I break with Deleuze, I'm going to let you know I'm breaking with Deleuze here, so you don't get confused when you back to his text.